This is 2023's Nowhere. Warning, spoilers ahead. We start by hearing about Spain having trouble sustaining its citizens, and soon we see refugees rushing out of the back of a van, and Mia is one of the last ones out of the van. The group rushes through a nearby fence, and Mia and Nico are taken to a different section of the shipping yard. They rush through a maze of containers, and there appear to be other people there searching for people. That would be about right, since a dog pops up around the corner to alert the guards. I don't know how bad things were where they're living, but the security on this shipping yard is absolutely insane. Armed guards were running around, dogs tied up around every corner, and now there's at least one helicopter in the air with a spotlight. Mia watches as some of the others are caught, but Mia and Nico get to their destination soon. The man in charge of sneaking them out demands more money as a last-minute charge-up, and Nico has to give up her ring in order for them to accept them in the container. They step inside the container, and just as Mia tells Nico that she's not okay, the doors slam shut on them. Once inside, they see that there are many more sitting in the container with them. And apparently, a woman is listening to a news broadcast listening to how bad things are. Apparently, the soldiers are targeting pregnant women and children, and the container seems to be full of both. Mia, for instance, is almost at the end of her pregnancy, and she has to wrap her stomach to hide the fact that she was with child. Just by the animosity of the rest of the group, I'd be surprised if they didn't start taking each other out on the journey. Mia finds that Nico has snuck a Snickers bar in her bag, but they're planning on eating it as a celebratory snack once they make it to Ireland. Mia is worried that Ireland might have more similar problems as Spain, but Nico assures her that nothing can take down the Irish. Nico seems to think that the worst part is over, but Mia feels like there's more difficulties on the way. In the morning, Mia wakes up to find that one of the others is drilling holes in the walls to get some fresh air. Imagine being stuck in a container with 20 other people without any fresh air. That is a recipe for disaster. As Mia thinks about everything, she asks if a girl they had is really alive, but Nico swears that she was taken away. Just then, the truck comes to a halt and a ruckus can be heard outside. Suddenly, the doors open up and more refugees rush into the container. The guys in charge of smuggling everyone out take off more people, including Nico, and Mia ends up trapped in the container with only strangers with her. She watches through the peephole to see Nico get onto another truck, and she pulls out her phone to call him. Nico assures her that he'll see her when they reach their destination, but he reminds her not to trust anyone else in her container and to hide her things. As the truck goes on, Mia watches as families are torn apart by soldiers, and she watches as women are thrown into cages and taken away. Is this something that's really going on over there, or is this supposed to be a hypothetical future scenario? Eventually, the truck comes to another shipping yard, and one of the people tells everyone to get to the very back. Mia watches as guards get ready to search the container, and the guards cut the padlocks off the back. This dude hops in the truck, and it's completely empty. That really got me for a second. I thought it might be the wrong truck, but there's an entire fake wall that the refugees are hiding behind. Not only that, but this guard actually knows a way to check for it. The guard tries to give everyone a chance to surrender, but no one takes his offer. Mia, on the other hand, finds a crawl space on the top. Just before the guard gives the order, one of the girls goes to surrender, but the guard goes back on his word. All of the refugees are put down, and Mia silently hides on top of the crate. The bodies are taken out, and once the doors are shut again, Mia checks her phone. She tries to send a warning to Nico about the guards killing everyone, and after her container gets put into the port, she tries to get a hold of Nico but gets his voicemail instead. After her container gets secured, Mia finds the bags that belong to one of the previous refugees, and she finds all sorts of survival gear inside of it. She decides to fall asleep, but she gets woken up by the raging waters as the ship goes headfirst into a storm. I know pregnant women and their babies can withstand quite a bit of trauma, but I feel like this is on a whole other level. I mean, I'd break something if I was tossed around like Mia is. Suddenly, the containers fall off the boat and Mia is knocked out. She comes to find water inside the container, and when she looks out the peephole, all she sees is water. She finds her phone elsewhere in the container, but it's too damaged to work. She quickly rushes to the bag with gear to find a flip phone, but it's protected by a pin. Seeing that she's in a bad predicament, she starts to go through the crates and searches for more supplies. After Mia finds some heavy-duty tape, she goes around to try and plug up the holes in the walls, and she looks through a memory book floating nearby. Then, she hears screaming from a nearby container, but all she can do is watch as Nico's container sinks into the ocean. Mia tries to swap the SIM card from her phone to the flip phone, but there's still no answer. This is just depressing. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, she starts getting pains in her stomach, and it's a nice reminder that she's also pregnant on top of this terrifying situation. As time passes, Mia continues trying Nico's phone, but it consistently goes right to voicemail. Eventually, she gives up, and she starts feeling for her baby. At first, she doesn't feel it, but just when she gets ready to give up hope, the baby pushes back as if it's answering her. Feeling better about that at last, Mia tries to lay down. Nope, no time to rest here. Now she gets woken up by what sounds like a whole pod of whales mating or the container falling apart. Mia decides to ignore it, and I can't understand how she's just able to ignore all these creaks and sounds. Later, Mia wakes up to find a crate fall and bust a hole in the bottom, and she drowns. Luckily, it's just a dream, but it's enough to make her get up to check on the holes she taped. She tries to check on the hanging crate to see what's inside, and she finds more and more Tupperware. With a little quick thinking, she finds a way to use the rubber to plug the holes better than the tape, and she manages to create a system to drain more of the water. Now she puts tape on the wall to mark where the level is at the moment, and she decides to hang up some pictures to give herself a little bit of hope. She goes over what little bit of food, water, and supplies she has, and it's not very much at all. Hey! She gets a phone call! It's Nico! Nico didn't even get to the shipyard! He was definitely a little more than surprised to find out that she was just floating in the ocean. He tells her not to give up hope, and he reminds her to keep her phone handy. After the phone call, Mia sits down to eat a soggy sandwich, and she relieves herself in one of the many Tupperware containers. As time passes, Mia's water breaks, and she starts giving birth in the middle of a storm. While this is going on, the phone rings, and Mia ends up dropping the phone in the water. Mia manages to push the baby out, and it doesn't seem to be breathing. She does everything she can, and soon the baby starts crying for her. Mia rides out the storm inside one of the crates, and she stores the placenta in another Tupperware container. The water level has risen dangerously now with the storm hitting the container, but Mia does her best to take care of the baby like she normally would. The baby doesn't seem to want to eat though, and Mia can't figure out what's wrong. Suddenly, Mia gets an idea, and she starts drilling into the ceiling some more. The baby really doesn't like this though, and Mia loses her temper with the baby for a second before apologizing. After calming down, Mia tries to feed the baby again, and it turns out that she hadn't been supplying anything for the baby. That's all fixed now. This movie decided to go ultra-realistic with its survival problems. Kudos for that approach. The next morning, Mia tries drilling more holes in the ceiling to cut an opening, but the battery in the drill dies. She tries switching the SIM back over to her old phone, but the screen is so messed up that it doesn't work. Mia loses her temper again and starts throwing things, but in the process, she finds a pocket knife. She tries to cut through the ceiling, but it's a grueling process that leaves her tired. Mia searches through all of the Tupperware containers, and she ends up devouring the placenta she had stashed earlier. Suddenly, Mia hears more sounds like whales outside, but this time, they really are there and hit the container. When the whale hits the container again, Mia decides to hit the wall of the container to assert some dominance and show that someone is there. I know that whales are huge, majestic, and actually quite smart, but I don't think they roll by the same rules as bears do. The next day, Mia goes back to cutting the roof, but the pocket knife ends up breaking. She goes to see if there's any water left for her, but every bottle is empty. Mia starts losing her mind a little bit, and she decides to lick the condensation off of the roof of the container. This ends up making her sick, and she's even more dehydrated than before. Later, Mia ends up hallucinating the daughter that she lost, and Uma stands face to face with her. Mia definitely feels responsible for losing Uma, but then Nico's essence appears and tells her that it wasn't her fault. I feel bad for any characters who have to be put in situations like this to find closure. When Mia comes out of her trance, she finds that it's raining through the ceiling, and she puts all the Tupperware containers on a crate to catch as much rainwater as possible. After the rain, Mia comes up with a plan to pull the section of the ceiling off, and after looping a strap, she's able to pull it down so that she can reach the outside. She pops out of the container with her baby, and they look over the vast ocean that they're lost in. Mia and the baby seem to be much happier being outside the container. Mia tosses a dirty cloth diaper over the side, and she notices that there are fish swimming around them. Time to get really good at spearfishing with a piece of rebar. I hope you like sushi, unless she plans on cooking them with that tiny lighter. Mia can't spear a fish at all, but when she lays back down to take a break, she notices a plane flying overhead. She quickly rushes back into the container to find a reflective piece of glass, but she absolutely destroys her leg on the rusty edge of the ceiling. I mean, isn't there that artery in the thigh somewhere? Wow, now she's going to play nurse. Mia is resourceful, I'll give her that. To pass the time, Mia starts weaving wires from the ceiling, and she's created quite a little habitat for herself and her baby. The next day, she decides to try her luck at catching fish in a net that she weaved the night before, and she uses a dirty diaper as bait. She manages to catch one, and she's perfectly fine with going at it raw. As more days pass, Mia siphons more water out, and she actually has a backup of fish caught. Mia decides to leave a trail of Tupperware behind her to hopefully lead someone to them, because the level of the water is steadily rising still on day 12. One night, Mia goes through the pictures she was able to salvage, and she shows the baby pictures of Nico. Mia assures the baby that Nico will find them somehow, and she eventually comes to a picture of Uma. It turns out that Uma couldn't stay inside when the regime changed, and she wanted to go outside when it wasn't safe. The soldiers took Uma, even though they were only outside for 5 minutes, and Mia thinks that it's all her fault. I can definitely understand why she feels that way, but you can't blame her for other people's actions. Later that night, the baby starts coughing horribly, and Mia realizes that the baby is cold. She manages to light a fire in a canteen with the alcohol that's left, and they huddle up by the fire. When Mia wakes up, she finds that the water is getting dangerously close to the limit, but she also hears something tapping on the container outside. She leans over the side to investigate, and she finds one of her Tupperware containers hitting it. Suddenly, Nico calls her, and she manages to answer the phone. Nico tells her that he won't be able to come for her, and he explains that he got shot in the process of sneaking onto another container. He was simply calling her to tell her goodbye before it was too late. Mia decides to spend these last moments on the phone by telling Nico about the baby, and she holds the phone by the baby so she can hear Nico's voice one time before he dies. This is depressing. Fittingly, Mia decides to name the baby Noah, and this is one of the last things Nico hears before Mia's phone dies. Why did the phone have to die before Nico did? By day 26, the water has reached the absolute limit, and most everything inside is underwater. Drawings remain on the wall, and it turns out that Mia has had to live on top of the container for a few days now. She managed to create a raft from Tupperware containers, and she goes to put the finishing touches on it when a seagull pops up on the container. Mia knows this means that land is nearby, but now she's out of fish. That night, Mia puts the sail on the raft, but suddenly the plugs in the holes in the container fall out, and she knows that she's run out of time. She goes into the container to grab a picture, and she spots the Snickers on the other end of the container. Is the Snickers worth risking it? Worth getting trapped in a sinking container? Nope! The container sinks, and Mia has to cut her foot loose from a strap she got caught on. Luckily, she cuts through it and makes it to the surface, but she doesn't see the huge animal in the water with her. When she gets to the top, Noah has floated away, and now Mia has to deal with a whale coming towards her. The whale actually makes Noah cry enough for Mia to find her, and Mia holds on to Noah's float for the whole night. The next day, a boat is floating nearby, and a family of fishermen spots Noah, but Mia isn't there. The woman pulls on a rope that was attached to Noah's float, and they pull Mia out of the water. After a bit of CPR, Mia breathes air again, and she holds Noah as tears of joy come to her eyes. Then, the credits roll. For a survival movie, it did a good job of adding enough new stuff to keep things interesting, and Mia was actually pretty smart for a character stuck in crisis. Give it a shot. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.